Dr. Manchanda, sir.
Good morning to all of you. My duty here is to set the scene for the first discussion, that is on regulatory challenges of homeopathic medicinal products. What is the global and Indian perspective and where we are? So let me start. I'll be just talking on these 3 points because these 3 points will pave the way for our discussion for this session, that how we can have new drugs development in homeopathy in a very, very rational and affordable way. So this is one of the publication of WHO, safety issues in the preparation of homeopathic medicine. This publication came in 2010 and Dr. Ishwar Das participated in the preparation of this when he was in the ministry. So it's a very interesting publication and probably the only publication of WHO in homeopathy. We don't have benchmarks. We don't have practicing guidelines, but we have safety issues in the preparations of homeopathic medicine. And this publication gives us an broad guidelines what an industry should do. But when we look at homeopathy, at global stage, homeopathy has presence in around 100 countries as per WHO report. But its regulation vary in different region to region. I'm going to just in the beginning going to focus mainly on 2 regions, European region, then on US regions, because rest of the regions broadly follow these guidelines. And then of course Indian. So these are the European directives. One for the veterinary use of homeopathic medicine and then directive for the human use of homeopathic medicine. And these are general drug and cosmetic act like we have in India. So these are the general directions for the Europe. But out of these, they have specifically defined homeopathic medicine. What does it mean? It means any drug, if we prepare according to homeopathic principle, is homeopathy. And it should be available in any of the pharmacopoeia. So it is, the definition is more or less same what we have in India. Then in chapter 2, there are specific recommendations for human use, Article 13 and Article 14. So this Article 14 is very important in the context that they have only homeopathic medicine. So they have a very special way of working like classical preparations of homeopathy. If you are developing a homeopathic product where you don't want to say for what it is used, then you have a very simplified way of product registration. You need not to go for clinical trials. So they talk about these products are required to be administered orally and externally. Then no specific therapeutic indication needs to be said. And there is sufficient degree of dilution to guarantee the safety of medicinal product. And what is that guarantee? That in particular, the medicinal product may not contain either more than 1 part per 10,000 of the mother tincture or more than 1/100th of the smallest dose used in allopathy. So what a great thing, you know. So it means any of the allopathic medicine, any of the molecules beyond 3x can be converted into homeopathic product in Europe, not in India. Then at the same time, registration, medicinal, and all member states are required to follow these directions. But if you want to assign some work, then you have to follow another section. So the proof of therapeutic efficacy shall not be required for a homeopathic medicinal product registered in accordance with paragraph 1 of this article. And where appropriate, administered in according to the article 3.2. So it is far more easy to get product registration in Europe than even in India. But when we talk of Article 16, this Article 16 tells us that a member state may introduce. So there they have a very flexible kind of thing. You need to follow either conventional route, or any member state of the Europe can have their own rules of assessing therapeutic efficacy according to the industry demand in that particular country, and that some of the member states can follow. So they have no restriction about this. So Article 16.2 says that a member state may introduce or retain in its territory specific rule for the toxicological and pharmacological test and clinical trials of homeopathic products other than those referred in 14.1. So 14.1 open to all. But if you want to assign therapeutic indication, you have to follow Article 16. And this Article 16 is country specific. It's not European Union specific. So this is just a story of Europe that covers most of the countries where homeopathy is practiced extensively. Then comes the story of US. In US, the process of homeopathic registration products was started way back in 1938, but it is being periodically reviewed. And with every other review, more and more challenges are being faced. Like initially in 1938, homeopathic products were introduced in FDA regulations. And in 1988, they passed another rule wherein it was only simple to get registration without any therapeutic claim. Rather, US was more open than Europe in that way. And this CPG 400 and 400 was a very good thing that helped at least US society to register many products. That was just like we have combination in India. That requirement is the drugs that you are using should be part of homeopathic pharmacopoeia of India or any of the pharmacopoeia. So same story was in US. As a result, many products were being produced, though there were no doctors, not much robust education system, but products were there. Then in 2015, FDA started having lens. They started public hearing where even ministry, our embassy participated in that public hearing, and gradually now they are talking. They first removed this CPG 400. And that gives liberty to combinations to be marketed. Now every 3 months, 6 months, some or the other products are being challenged by FDA and are removed from the market. So this is a very challenging times in US. Now when we look at India, our process started way back in 1952, and with several amendments, now we are strongly placed in Drug and Cosmetic Act of India. And now the new act is coming. I'm not going to touch today that because that has to come. But with so many amendments, now we have all the possibilities. We have GMP in place. We have proper product registration in place. All the new drug development is also placed. But still, there certain clarity is not there even among the implementers. This was the last amendment that we could do, and I was just congratulating our chief guest today, GN Singh ji, that he was one of the very strong support for getting these amendments done after many years. That ensured now homeopathic medicines are available anywhere in the world, in the country, on any allopathic, and all medicines are now OTC products. So this was the advantage. But for rational and speedy approvals, the legitimate and increasing demand. Public wants homeopathy because it's a smokeless cigarette, that has it is such a wonderful system that may not help you sometime, but is not going to harm you. The first statement of GN Singh ji today, that first we make people sick, then we treat them. Homeopathy has nothing to do that. It is sometimes possible that it may not be effective. It's possible. So there is a public demand. That too of So the legitimate and increased demand need for homeopathic product by patients and healthcare providers worldwide needs to be balanced by appropriate regulation framework proportionately and address quality, safety and effectiveness. So there is always a risk of under regulation or over regulation. What we need is a tailor-made regulation, especially for complex homeopathic medicines that are available in the market. And for that, we need to follow risk-based approach. And now I say risk-effectiveness-based approach. If you look at it, because I have worked as a regulator also, our very great challenge is how to balance between effectiveness and risk to the public. For homeopathy, we have three possibilities. We have clinical case data, we have observational studies, and we have clinical trials. When to use, to what extent we need to use these three in combination is a very, very challenging thing for regulators while giving approval to new drugs. So this is risk-based approach. If more risk, you need more documentation. If no risk, you need least documentation. So this is a graph. So what kind of, if you want to prepare COVID nosot and you want to push it as an alternative to vaccine, you need to have clinical trial and basic research commensurate with the vaccination. If you want to produce a product that is required to be used for cancer, you need to have that kind of thing. But if you want to produce a product only for upper respiratory tract infection, even the effectiveness cohort studies, that might be sufficient. So what is important is this marketing authorization evidence has to be proportionate to the risk of indications. So therefore, we need to define our product, and this work is going on, this discussion is going on inside Europe, not too much in India, that we need to define low, medium and high risk products. And especially now I'm shifting from classical to complex. It's okay. For classical, even Europe is free that if you are using diluted medicine beyond hundreds of the allopathic dose or after 10,000 of the mother tincture, it's okay. You can use it by the doctors. But if you are preparing combinations, we need to see for which these are required to be used. And this is here, I had a very good interaction with, at international level, under the banner of LMHI with industry. At the moment, like in India, regulations are being reviewed. In Europe also, regulations are being reviewed. And people of industries under a graver threat in several countries. So what was the industry view? That we need to establish the homeopathic sector as a credible and reliable healthcare player. And first, we have to look at how to enable fruitful internal discussion as we are having now. Then we need to have a mutual respect and to know the roles and core competence of individuals. What a researcher can do, what industry can do, what a doctor can do. We need to have that kind of discussion. And it is also important that we need to understand our limitations. We can't say that homeopathy can treat everything. So that kind of situation we need to, and we need to strategically focus on our strength. And at the same time, we have to be very clear and confident about the added value to the patient. What value homeopathy as a system is adding to the patient. And we have to focus on securing and developing the countries with homeopathic tradition before we go for the new markets. Environment, in regulatory environment is very volatile. So we have to be very careful about that. And global harmonization is not yet a realistic goal because different countries talk in different way. We need not to put that our regulation should be acceptable in Europe and Europe regulation should be acceptable in US. This is not the goal at the moment with the industry. So these were just the outcome of the industry meet. Just to conclude that we have opportunity for India in a median risk category if we are able to identify. If we are able to, for low risk category, there is no problem even now. But for high risk category, we need to follow, even everywhere, the conventional setups. We need to go for the randomized control trial. We need to go for the whatever is required for conventional setup, that is required. So Indian industry needs to join hands with international counterpart for collaborative ventures on the import, exports, even in clinical trials. Today we have experts of clinical trial. This is the clinical trial industry has to open in India. Still it is not open because nobody is investing. Whatever clinical trials are being done, these are just for education purposes in our medical colleges for the purpose of MD thesis, PhD thesis, but not really for any industry purpose. And another very important thing is, we need to set up a very unique, we have that opportunity to set up a very unique regulatory system in India that the world can follow later on in homeopathy, because world is looking towards India in homeopathy. We do not have still that much skepticism as we have in rest of the part of the world. So we need to align with modern global regulatory standards in India. And another way forward is large growth potential for homeopathic sector in medium risk indication. The scientific and methodological basis of risk effectiveness standards for HMP needs to be worked out. And we need to further invest on clinical trial, and we need to develop appropriate standards. Now this is the time when we are developing our regulation. So thank you very much. So these were just an opening remark. Now we have three very, very respected panelists. They already are doing work in homeopathy and in unconventional side. So thank you very much. You're welcome.